Jalen Hurts passed his first big test of the 2026 season in the Eagles' joint practices against the Patriots. We'll talk about it next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. And thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Louis DiBiase. Today's episode is brought to you by KALSHI. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app, use our promo code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles took on A.J. Brown and the New England Patriots today in Foxboro for one of two joint practices this week in New England. Tomorrow they will have practice as well. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles on all platforms for another practice recap. But for today, we're going to talk about day one, practice on Wednesday in Foxboro. I know that people were tweeting out Jalen Hurts threw 3 interceptions today, but when you add context to his situation, when you add context to those 3 interceptions, when you look at what else he did and the Eagles offense today against a Super Bowl team in New England that made it all the way to the big game in 2025. I think today's joint practice against the Patriots, although reporters are saying it was close, but the Patriots won, I feel like today is a win for the Eagles. I feel like they passed their first big test of the 2026 season with this new look offense, a brand new scheme, a brand new play caller under first-time offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. I feel like today was a test the Eagles offense passed. I feel like today was a test specifically that Jalen Hurts passed. Yes, box score wise, I guess if you're somebody that tracks training camp stats, I'm not that guy personally, but if that is your flavor, Jalen Hurts did throw 3 interceptions today. A couple of them, though, in 7-on-7s were bad drops from Dontavian Wicks. There were a couple bad drops from Johnny Munt over the middle of the field. Saquon Barkley had a drop today. Overall, not to make full excuses for Jalen Hurts, there was one bad pick where he overthrew, I believe it was Dallas Goedert along the right sidelines, and it got picked by a Patriots safety. So that was on him. But the other 2 interceptions were not on him. The throw to Dontavian Wicks over the middle was right on the money. It was right in Wicks' hands. He just dropped it, and it fell in the lap of a Patriots defender. The other ones, I feel like, weren't on Jalen. And again, let's add context to the situation. He doesn't have Devontae Smith or Mekhi Lemon at his disposal. Even his second-round pick in Eli Stowers isn't ready yet to be playing with the first-team offense. So 3 of the Eagles' top weapons for this year, 3 of their top 4 or 5 weapons, Jalen really hasn't been able to play with all that much this offseason. He's been throwing mostly to a combination of Dontavian Wicks and Hollywood Brown and Elijah Moore, Darius Cooper. That doesn't always excuse a franchise quarterback that's won a Super Bowl for not elevating his team, but I don't think those 3 interceptions tell the story of today. I don't think those 3 interceptions tell you that Jalen Hurts didn't elevate this team. I actually think that from the plays we saw, from what we heard from reporters that were at Foxboro, Jalen absolutely elevated this team. Again, he is going up against a team in New England, a defense with the Patriots and Mike Vrabel, that made it all the way to Super Bowl 60 last year. He's going up against some really good talent like Milton Williams in the middle of their defensive line. We know how good Milton Williams was in Super Bowl 59 and in all of 2024. And Jalen made some really big plays today. He recognized a blitz coming right into the A-gap, right in his face. He recognizes this blitz is coming. He rolls a little bit, hits Will Shipley on the money deep down the right sideline on a beautiful wheel route that would have created an explosive play in the game, showing that Jalen Hurts continues to grow against the blitz. That used to be his big bugaboo in the NFL from 2020 pretty much up until 2024 is when he really figured it out the last 2 years. And to see him make an explosive play against a Super Bowl caliber defense to his 3rd string running back in the first real competition the Eagles have had, the first team offense has had against other competition, like that's to me a really good sign. Again, this is a brand new scheme This is something that Jalen Hurts has never really run before, a new play caller, a lot of new personnel. He doesn't even really have a bunch of his go-to guys for this year at his disposal in this joint practice, and yet he's still creating explosives. There was a really nice 3rd and 10 play where there's pressure up the middle again. The offensive line wasn't great in pass pro. They dominated in the run. We'll talk about that later, but pass pro wasn't great. Jalen Hurts escapes pressure on the run outside the pocket, delivers a first down converting pass to Hollywood Brown. There's another play that they tweeted out on social media. If you haven't seen it, go check out the Eagles X page. They posted a beautiful throw from Jalen to Elijah Moore deep down the left sidelines. It would have been close to a touchdown in a real game. Jalen kind of leaks out of the pocket a little bit to the left, on the money, throws it right in front of the fingertips of Elijah Moore. And Elijah Moore was draped in coverage by a Patriots defensive back. Like, it was good coverage. Jalen put that ball only where Elijah Moore could get it. So to see multiple splash plays, throwing to his, 3rd receiver, his 5th wide receiver, his 3rd string running back on the road in Foxboro against the Patriots that made the Super Bowl last year, I think there was a little bit of added pressure to perform considering A.J. Brown is on the other side. People will tell you, and Jalen will probably say until he's blue in the face, that didn't impact today's practice at all, that they're just trying to get better every single day. But I think that did matter a little bit. I think that did add some pressure. And again, he didn't have Devontae Smith. He didn't have Mekhi Lemon. Eli Stowers isn't currently with the first team. And I thought he looked good today. From what I've heard, from what I've seen in videos, even in like one-on-ones, the ball placement was really good. There was a really nice seam throw down the left sidelines to Darius Cooper. Not down the left sidelines, over the middle, a nice seam route there. I thought Jalen looked accurate to Dontavian Wicks multiple times over the middle. Yeah, again, the box score, quote-unquote, says that Jalen Hurts got picked off 3 times today, but I think they passed the test. Again, when you add context to it, they're going up against a good team. They're on the road. This is the first time the Eagles' first-team offense has played opposing competition. Jalen is without a lot of weapons. It's a new scheme, and he still made plays today. I think he did elevate this team. I think he did show that they are making progress every single day. Now, will there be growing pains? Yeah, absolutely. Will there be rust? Will there be mistakes, turnovers? Sure, that's part of learning a brand new offense. But I believe that today they tested well against the Patriots, and I believe overall this summer has been a success so far. Even though the Baltimore preseason opener was brutal on offense, I think when we're talking about specifically the first team offense, this summer has been a win. I feel like there have been more positive days. There have been more explosive plays that we have seen for our own eyes, even us that aren't at all the practices. There's more positives than I probably expected at this time of the offseason, especially when you also consider the fact that there have been injuries to a lot of these weapons. You have had Lane Johnson out of a lot of these practices. You are going up against an elite defense of your own. Vic Fangio's Philadelphia Eagles defense is a top 3 unit in football. Or even if you don't believe they're top 3, undebatably, they're a top 5 unit over the last 2 years. I think when you contextualize all of that and then you add this joint practice, I'm happy so far with the progress the Eagles offense is making. Is it a finished product? Absolutely not. Do I want them to be better? Yeah, for sure. But from what I read today, and again, I'm pretty, I would say, rational when it comes to training camp, joint practices, the preseason. I don't like to get too high. I don't like to get too low. But I was happy with what Jalen Hurts did today in a pretty high-pressure situation with A.J. Brown on the other sideline. And this was a win for the Eagles offense too, because the run game looked really good. And I'm going to tell you why that is so important coming up next, right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by KALSHI. Before the season even kicks off, everybody's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On KALSHI, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. For instance, will the Eagles win the NFC Championship. Right now, they are trading at 10%. So the only teams that have a higher percentage chance of winning the NFC Championship are the Rams and the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. So if you predict that the Eagles will win, a $100 trade is going to pay out at $940.73, trading currently at 10% on KALSHI. You're trading against peers in a live market on KALSHI, meaning there is no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Trade the draft pick, the game, and more on KALSHI. Download the KALSHI app and use the code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. That's KALSHI, KALSHI, trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk. It may not be suitable for all investors. KALSHI products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. And thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. So the Eagles had their first of 2 joint practices today against the New England Patriots in Foxboro. Again, was it a perfect A-plus day from Jalen Hurts in the offense? No. He did throw 3 interceptions, 2 of which, though, didn't look like were his fault. From videos we saw from the Patriots social media team that showed those interceptions, from what I've heard from reporters that I actually respect and aren't trying to manipulate you and get a reaction out of you with your takes, you know who I'm talking about. The actual credible people at that practice made me believe that today was a win for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense. I think they passed a really important test. Tomorrow, there's another chance for them to get better. Obviously, there were mistakes. They weren't able to get any points on the board in that final drive of practice. Drake May and A.J. Brown did lead a field goal drive to end things. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles had last ups. They were not able to score. But overall, I think today was a win, not just for Jalen, but for the run game too. So I was following along the practice from a Patriots perspective too. I was following a lot of Patriots beat reporters just to see what they were saying too from their lens of how the Eagles offense looks, how their defense looks against the Patriots. Because I feel like Boston media is very similar to Philly. They're pretty honest, and they're not fanboys. They're not homers. If the Patriots aren't looking good, they'll absolutely tell you. And one thing that I took away from covering or following the Patriots coverage of this practice is that the Eagles' run game had their way with the first-team Patriots defense. Saquon Barkley specifically was gashing the Patriots' front 7, especially on outside zone runs, and that is so crucial to the 2026 success of this football team. As much as I want the passing attack to improve, as much as I want Jalen Hurts to stick it to A.J. Brown and the entire NFL, they're all doubting him again. They don't believe that he can do this. He can grow in a new offense. He can grow as a passer. He can grow without A.J. Brown. As badly as I want to see him drop another all-time Mike and say that I can and flip the bird to everybody, no pun intended, but I like that. As much as I want that, the run game still is the identity of this Eagles offense. Things are still going to run through this offensive line, through Saquon Barkley, and through Jalen Hurts' mobility. Like, that is still going to be the speed ball, the fastball. Man, I really don't watch baseball. I can't believe I just called it a speed ball. The run game with Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and this elite offensive line, that's going to be the fastball for this offense. Now, of course, you need to switch up. You need a change up. You need a curve. That's what the passing attack is for. That's where Sean Mannion comes in and all of these new weapons to generate easier yards in the passing game. But I still believe as long as the Eagles have this iteration of Jalen Hurts, of Saquon Barkley in their prime still, of this offensive line before Lane Johnson calls it a career, before Lane's gone and Landon Dickerson's body completely breaks down. Jordan Mailata is still at the top of his game as a top 5 tackle in football. As long as that's the way this offense is built, they are going to run the football more than most teams in the league. And to hear that they were running really well today, that Saquon looked like 2024 Saquon Barkley, that's really crucial. That's really important, especially the way he's doing it in this new scheme, like really being comfortable in those outside zones, getting to the sideline faster. When Saquon, even last year, got to the second or third level of the defense, he still was as dangerous as any weapon in football. The problem last year was it was so few and far between getting him to that second and third level. Outside zone runs, I feel like the way Sean Mannion's scheme works is going to help him get to the boundary quicker. It's going to help him get hit in space faster, not just in the run game, but even Lane Johnson mentioned it in his press conference today that they think they're going to get 2024 Saquon Barkley back this year, that's what you saw in practice today, not just with outside zone runs, with the under center looks under Sean Mannion, but the screen game. Lane Johnson said like they're going to send him out wide as a receiver. Like they're going to unleash Saquon in different ways this year to get him the football in space because, again, last year, you didn't see it a lot, but look at the Giants game, look at the Chargers game, look at the Commanders game. When there were opportunities for Saquon to get 10, 15 yards downfield, he still was one of the most explosive weapons in the league. Did he look as explosive as he did in 2024? Last year, no. But you still saw the ability to rip off 70-yard plays. He did it multiple times last year, even in a season where the run blocking was abysmal. So that's another big takeaway from today's practice. Again, yeah, the offense wasn't perfect. I do feel like even the secondary on defense struggled too. The Patriots probably won the day, and we'll talk about the Eagles secondary in our third segment to wrap up the show. But there were things to feel positive about in this practice on both sides of the ball, especially on offense. Like the run game looked good, and that's important because they did not look good running the football against Baltimore in the preseason opener. That wasn't the first team offense. No starters on offense were playing. But yeah, the outside of a couple Will Shipley plays in the second quarter, the Eagles' run game didn't look all that impressive on Saturday. So to see them get back on track in the next competition they had against another team, another good team, is, again, a really good sign. So overall, the theme of these first two segments of today's show, to recap practice, day one of joint practice against New England, I feel like it was a test the Eagles passed. Now, did they get an A+? No. But did they get a C? I don't think so. I think today was like a B+ kind of day. I'm feeling encouraged more than discouraged about this offense after today's practice against New England. Hopefully tomorrow they really make things happen. Less, sloppy play, less turnovers, a better performance from the secondary. Let's not allow A.J. Brown to kill us as much as he did today. And we'll talk about that next. A.J. Brown did have a lot of success today against the Eagles secondary, but I don't really think that matters, and I'll tell you why coming up next. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast, we are presented today by Gametime. There are more live events than ever worth seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. That's the summer, right? The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting the tickets. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why so many fans are turning to Gametime. The app is built to make buying tickets simple, with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive savings opportunities that help you get to the events you want without the usual hassle. There is no surprises at all. I just went to a concert in Colorado thanks to Gametime, and not only were there no surprise fees at checkout, but the view of my seat, I knew getting there, it was going to look good because of Gametime. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDON in all capital letters for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. All right, wrapping up this Wednesday edition of Locked On Eagles. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Guys, make sure that your second listen of the day is the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. Hopefully you haven't done your draft yet. Even if you have, get all the roster advice that you need at Locked On Fantasy Football. You can find the podcast wherever you get Locked On Eagles in audio form or on YouTube as well. Again, wrapping up this Wednesday edition of the show. Today was day one of 2 days of Eagles joint practices in New England against the Patriots. And I'm glad Jalen Hurts made some splash plays so he wasn't completely shown up by A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown, he did have a good day. It was awesome seeing Quinyon Mitchell beat him in that one-on-one rep where the crowd was erupting. the Patriots fans were ready to lose their minds if AJ did catch that touchdown against Q, but Quinyon did force the ball. He did force the incompletion from A.J. Brown. He was with him stride for stride in his hip pocket. Got away a little bit with holding, but A.J. Brown also jammed him in the neck. So I feel like it was kind of a grappling play that kind of negated each other, and I'm glad the refs didn't throw a flag. And AJ did have some separation on Quinyon in the beginning of the rep, but Mitchell has just elite closing speed, and it was such great technique. He did not give AJ inside leverage. He kept him to the boundary, and that's what you want to do as a corner. Even if the receiver has some separation along the sidelines, you can use the sidelines as your best friend to cut him off. The angling is a lot better when you maintain inside leverage. And when you have that kind of elite closing speed, you can beat him there. Like it's a lot easier to recover that way than it is on an inside route. And I thought Mitchell played that beautifully. Again, could he have got flagged in a real game for almost pantsing A.J. Brown? Like he had his hands pulling on A.J. Brown's football pants. Like, sure. But A.J. Brown also pretty much jammed Quinyon in the neck right before the football got there. And if AJ doesn't do that, if he puts out two hands instead of one, and we're used to that in Philadelphia. I saw that firsthand in the Buffalo game last year. I was along the sidelines where AJ, instead of just catching it with two hands, almost tries to like draw contact to draw a flag. He tried that again today on Quinyon Mitchell. It did not work. He would have had to just bring it in one hand because of that move, and Quinyon forced contact, forced the incompletion. That was a great play. But AJ did have a pretty big impact on this practice. He had like 5 to 7 receptions in this game, or in this practice, and 11 on 11s. He definitely made an impact against the Eagles' zone defense. Had a couple nice wins against Reek Woolen. But overall, like, that doesn't matter to me. You know, it's not like A.J. Brown stuck it to the Eagles. There were never questions about A.J. Brown's ability in Philadelphia. The Eagles didn't trade A.J. Brown away because they don't think he has it anymore. And I believe that A.J. won't age very well as a receiver. I don't think he's going to be an elite player for another 3 to 4 years. But I do think for the next 2 years, he's still going to be a top 5, top 10 receiver. The Eagles didn't want to trade him. They wanted to keep him. He's the one that wanted to go. He can say it until he's blue in the face. He can gaslight us at these press conferences all the time that it's all love in Philly. You know, he was asked today if his mindset is a lot healthier than it was in Philly. And he said, no, like my mindset it was positive in Philadelphia. Like he can deny that there was anything wrong, but the Eagles didn't want to trade him. And so there was no revenge for A.J. Brown to get on the Eagles. There wasn't anything for him to prove to us. So the fact that like some Patriots fans are, in our YouTube comments and tweeting at us like, see what he does, like see what you're missing out on. I got a lot of that at least. It's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we know AJ's good. We know AJ has success in the NFL. He had 4 unbelievable years in Philadelphia. That's why we were so confused, why he was so miserable. That's why we didn't want to lose him. So, for him to even have success against an elite secondary today, against Quinyon Mitchell and Reek Woolen, Cooper DeJean, just the zone defense of the Eagles entirely, led by Vic Fangio, that's not all that shocking. It's a little bit surprising the Eagles secondary struggled as much as they did today. I definitely expect them to bounce back in that way on Thursday during the second day of practices. But yeah, I don't think like A.J. Brown can, hold his head high and act like he did anything to the Eagles today to prove a point. Like there's no point to prove. Philly always believed in A.J. Brown. The Eagles always wanted him to be a face of the franchise. Even last year, I thought he handled things so miserably, and he totally mailed it in at the end of the year in a lot of those games from an effort perspective. He didn't talk to the media for 7 weeks, and yet all the Eagles did during the offseason was defend him. Even when they knew that he wanted to get traded, they had his back. And so that's one thing. I don't think we should take an L today because of what A.J. Brown did. You could take an L based on maybe what the Eagles didn't do at times, but I am not going to, act like A.J. Brown did anything today to stick it to Philadelphia. I don't know. That's the way I feel about it. Overall, I thought today was a success for the Eagles. I hope tomorrow is a little bit more dominant. I feel like today was definitely close, and the Patriots got the better of the Eagles overall, the majority of practice, but there were a lot of good things to like, and hopefully tomorrow they'll seem like the superior team. We'll break it all down on our fourth daily show of the week. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles wherever you get the show in audio form and on YouTube as well. We also have our squad show live on YouTube starting at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll post that on our audio feed as well once it's done with myself, Mark Farzetta, Jason Martius, and Harry Mays. Until then, thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.